Commissioner Reinhardt, I'm promoting you over. Okay, got it.
A roll call, please.
Thank you. Carter?
Here.
Southern?
Here.
McDonough?
Here.
McGuire?
Here.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Here.
And Modis Castillo?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll ask Commissioner Presum to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and land acknowledgement as we all go on mute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll also read the land acknowledgement statement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We are standing on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people. We want to acknowledge the Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk, and the other nations of people who also call this place home. We pay respects to their elders past and present. Please take a moment to consider the treaties made by the tribal nations that entitle non-Native people to live and work on traditional Native lands. Consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events.
Thank you, Commissioner Presum. I have the agenda of February 8th, 2022 presented for approval. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? Roll call, please.
Bretham?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye.
And Modis Castillo?
Aye. Minutes from February 1st, 2022 are presented for approval.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call.
Bretham?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye.
And Modis Castillo?
Aye. Thank you. And now we'll turn to Commissioner Fretham again to read our proclamation recognizing Black History Month. We have guests joining us who are welcome to turn their cameras on.
Me too. Before I do the proclamation, I'd like to welcome Arlene Hubbard, who's a Ramsey County employee on the planning team for our Black History Month events, and she'll be telling us more about the events planned. We also have two community members, Mayan Burrell and Jerome Treadwell, and William Moore will be able to introduce them after the proclamation. So whereas in 1926, Dr. Carter Goodwin Woodson launched the celebration of Negro History Week. And whereas February 1986 marked the beginning of National Black History Month to honor, recognize, promote, and preserve Black history and culture. And whereas the theme for the 2022 Ramsey County and City of St. Paul Black History Month observance is Black History for the Black Future. And whereas African children had to endure the trauma of being captured and forced into slavery in the United States, when at the end of the Civil War, it was estimated that there were about 4 million Black slaves and more than 1 million slaves who were under the age of 16 when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And whereas the children and youth who grew up in slavery were denied the most basic human rights, such as freedom, safety, protection from degrading and cruel treatment, compensation for work done, education, equality, and the right to move freely around. And whereas Ramsey County recognizes and celebrates the Black children and youth and their connection, insightfulness, and commitment to one another and the broader community. And whereas it is estimated that 1 in 3 Black Ramsey County children are living in poverty, and to address the harm caused by systems to Black children and youth, in 2017, Ramsey County started the Birth Equity Community Council to improve birth outcomes for Black families, and closed Boys Totem Town in 2019, a facility that had disproportionate impacts on Black youth, particularly young Black men. And whereas the Black future continues to inspire us with wisdom and creativity that are rich in truth and ingenuity, and that guides individuals and communities, now therefore be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declares February 2022 as Black History Month in Ramsey County. And be it further proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners urges all Ramsey County employees and residents to honor, celebrate, and support Black youth as they hold deep roots of wisdom, progress, and resilience. With that, I will turn it over to William Moore to introduce our guests.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Fretham, for those words. And I'd just like to take the time out to cede the floor to Mr. Burrell, Ms. Arlene, and Mr. Jerome so they can speak their piece on this awesome day and event.
You hear me? Yeah, my name is Mayan Burrell. I was incarcerated for more than 18 years for a crime I didn't commit in the state of Minnesota. I'm a Black man. I was born and raised in the state of Minnesota. And I know the effects of inequality and racism. And I know how strategic and how intentional these things are, and how it's a design, basically a system, specific people at the bottom through dehumanization, through forcing things into their mind to make them believe that they're less than, or that they're not equal to the rest of the citizens that are surrounding them. And I know the trickle-down effects that has. And so for you guys to be doing this and to be actually acknowledging everything that's taking place in our society, I think that it's a true blessing, just the enlightenment, to be able to have this space and to be able to have this floor, to be able to speak about these issues in order to actually correct the injustices that took place in the past. Because everything that you talk about, everything that you spoke about were injustices. Anytime when a human being is forced to be believed that they're less than what they are, is an injustice in itself. And so it's so many different levels to this, but just the participants being here, and for us to be able to have like-minded people in the same space that are actually building and trying to correct all of the injustices that take place in our past, and actually acknowledging the things that took place in the past, because it's so easy to turn a blind eye to injustice when you see it, and racism when you see it, especially when you feel like it doesn't affect you firsthand. So for us to come in here and come into the space and acknowledge the fact that it affects all of us, and actually try to change it, I think that it's a blessing, and I'm just grateful to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, like I said, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burrell. Thank you for being here with us.
My name is Arlene Hubbard. I am here to represent the City of St. Paul and Ramsey County Black History Month events for the month. Thank you for the proclamation. We have already started on last Thursday, which was a wonderful event called Blackness in STEAM. We're asking that you guys join us every Thursday, therefore after, around at noon at our lunch hour for Black History Month events. The next one is a big presentation that we're going to have done by Irreducible Grace. The following that we'll have Black mental health, spirituality, and sexuality. And then the last one, we'll have another big panel. And our theme, which you already heard on from Miss Trista, is the Black future. So thank you guys for allowing us to join you today, and thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you so much, Arlene. I'm going to turn to Prince Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And I'm not for sure if Jerome is calling in because I don't see him as a panelist, but also wanted to yield a couple of minutes for one of our youth community organizers, Essence Blackmore, for just a couple of minutes, if so, please.
Good morning, everybody. I didn't want to cut anybody off. I thought somebody needed to acknowledge me again. Good morning. As Prince just said, my name is Essence Blakemore. I am a community organizer. I am a poet, but at the end of the day, I'm just Essence, and I just care about making a change and making a difference for my people. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad that we're all here. I say it all the time, as I'm sure a lot of Black people do. Our history is ingrained and etched all throughout American history, but we take this one time to really focus on it. So the fact that we have this one particular moment within this month to focus is a blessing. As I said, I'm a poet. I think I articulate my ideas best through poetry. So I'm going to share that all with you today. I'll be actually reading one of my poems that is actually in Black Literacy Matters. It's kind of blurred out because of my background, but this is actually published by Minnesota Literacy, and it's a collection of Black voices that documented the history at the time through their eyes and perspectives. So it's not just Black voices, but voices of the people. So the first poem that I'm going to read is called No Vision. Is there a reason for a vision? When people like me, where I come from, have no say in the decision, we want to change the looks, narratives, and stigmas. We fighting against Black men not being humanized in hoodies. These are our dilemmas. We say we want to, we know how to apply for assistance, but not register for school and to vote. We say we want to liberate the people, but in reality, we offer false hope. Creating change is a lot harder than it should be, just the way the forefathers always planned it would be. To bring change, this body has to talk to this body, and this body has to talk to the next. This is how authenticity gets lost within the text. I think y'all call that bureaucracy. Invest the interest in keeping the language complicated and complex. I don't see a system. I see barriers. You want to be equitable and engaged, but classifying me as marginalized or POC. What are you saying? Do you even see me? I don't see a system. I don't see a system working with us. I see us working ourselves in. Because unfortunately, my seat and volume at the table is determined by the color of my skin. I'm determined to educate my people because it's time we see a real win. But since you asked though, I'll tell you my vision. It requires us to practice equity like a religion. I see us having conversations about something that's real. I want to bring about change that the people can feel. Anika is gracious and Jason's clothing line is empowering and uplifting. He gave me $200 worth of books for my community event. That's what I'll be gifting. I see Black men in their crisp suits with dreads braided to the back. I see sis at the table with colorful nails and weaves, not feeling self-conscious for looking too Black. I see universal love and a general understanding. I see generational traumas actually being addressed. But again, with everything that's been said, is there a reason for a vision? So that's No Vision. And I wrote that in response to a project that I did with the McKnight Foundation. And it was a research project, and I had a lot of information come out of that. But the biggest thing that I found was that a lot of people that I was connected to, my day-to-day peers, did not have an idea of what Met Council was, what City Council was. I worked very close with Anika Bowie, who ran for Ward 4 in St. Paul, and people didn't even have an idea of what City Council was and how much power they really held. And I found a problem with that. So like I said, I articulate best through poetry. That was kind of my capture of that moment. That's not as lighthearted. I do want to end on a more lighthearted note because I do think we are making moves toward progression and change. We just need to really listen and be intentional during that time that we have with each other. So I'll just share one more poem. This one is called Be the Light, very short. Be the light and uplift. Use your voice. If not, find your gift. It may be hidden like a bottle in the ocean, surely to be found with enough grit, time, and devotion. We have to look within and learn that we're more than our emotions. Inspire, teach, and preach. Let's get the movement in motion. Society got us all drinking the Kool-Aid, and we're not worried about the potion. We have to be the light and uplift. If intentions are right, join the fight and raise a fist. What I know is I'm American, and my America ain't gonna stay like this. I'm America, and my America can't stay like this. We have to be the light and uplift. Please use your voice and find your gift, because we have to. And that poem is not just for Black people. That is for anybody in the movement. I believe in being intentional in the way that you move and protest in every form. So that is just a little bit for me. I can get winded. I love to talk. Bless you all. Thank you for letting me be here and share my art with you all. Please stay safe.
Thank you, Essence, for the beautiful gift you shared with us and the call to action for all of us to be the light. We really appreciate you sharing your whole self with us, and the call to action that I know that we're all feeling. I want to turn to Commissioner Carter.
Thank you so very, very much, Chair Maris Castillo, and to all of you for being here with us today. Certainly in your brief moment, in the brief moments you've spent with us, you have shared from the manner in which communities of color, and specifically Black communities, have been disenfranchised, have suffered pain and trial and victimization throughout our history, and in fact, throughout the history of the world. You brought us to this moment, and in celebration of the future, particularly encapsulating our hopes for our youth. And you've shared with us that ours is, and I just have to say, thank you so very much to you, Essence, because you really have shared with us the essence of our resilience, to have that vision and to be the light, which is so important for capturing hope and also for transferring that hope and that spirit of success and progress for others. So thank you for being the light. Thank you for sharing with us the vision that we all share as well, and for appreciating this recognition of Black History Month, which, as you say, is not about a month or a day. It really is about stopping in this moment to recognize the day-to-day work that we do together as Black people, as supporters, as community, as humanity together. Thank you so very much for gifting us this morning with the information and with the spirit that is within you and that you share with all of us.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carter. I have County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks to everybody who came today to share wise words, inspirational words, real words. I just want to give voice to the idea that history is both our present and our past, and it's our history collectively. And we come this week grieving the loss of a life in our community just to the west, and how hard that is for everybody on this screen and across this organization and community right now. And we cannot detach the brilliant words we've heard today from the current reality being lived around us. I offer no more wisdom than what's been shared, but I want to give voice to that peace and the pain and the hurt and the resolve as we all carry forward together. Thank you all for being here today on a tough day. We need you, and we need to work together, and you're appreciated for showing up and being here. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor, and thank you to all of our guests who took time out to join us here this morning, to be present with us, to share your wisdom and your words and your call to action. So I know that we will embody that in action here at Ramsey County. And just thank you for your support and for your continued guidance on how we do this work together for our whole community. So let's celebrate Black History Month, not just today, not just this month, but every day, and honor that. Thank you all very much. All right. With that, we will return to our agenda. Today we have our park ordinances on the agenda. We're going to start by first waiving the second reading of the revised Parks and Recreation Ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Now we'll move into our public hearing. There's no vote taken for the public hearing today. The public hearing on the proposed park ordinance is now open. The purpose of the meeting is to allow the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed park ordinance. For those who are here to speak at the public hearing in person or via Zoom, when you are called to speak, please state your name, city of residence before making your comment. You will have a limit of 3 minutes to give your testimony. I have a list of those who have signed up to speak. We'll be taking speakers in the order that they appear on the list. So we'll navigate our first anyone in the chambers, or is everyone?
Madam Chair, on our first list is Pam Newcomb, and I do not see Pam as an attendee on Zoom webinar.
Okay.
I do see 2 phone numbers, but I don't know who they are. And so, but the phone numbers do not match up to the phone numbers that I captured in our records. So we can go on to the next name.
Okay. So I see Daryl Durheim from Arden Hills. Is Daryl on?
I do not see Daryl on the line either.
Okay. How about Michael Verhoeven?
I do not see Michael on the line.
Okay. Leah Charles?
I do not see Leah Charles.
Kelly Den?
And I do not see Kelly on the line either.
Is there anyone in the council chambers that would like to speak?
Madam Chair, there are no residents in the council chambers with me today.
Okay. Right, so great. Well, is there anyone else who wishes to speak regarding the proposed park ordinance, either on Zoom or in the chamber?
I
Madam
have
Chair.
someone raise their hands from the attendee list, Christine Polzer.
Okay.
Let me promote Ms. Polzer to the panelist.
Thank you.
And Christine, when I do that, please accept the promotion. Thank you.
Right, Christine, welcome. You have 3 minutes to speak. Feel free to turn on your camera. I see you now, Christine. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I am from Arden Hills. I live 1/2 block away from Tony Schmidt Park. So this particular concern is dear to my heart. We've lived here for about 45 years and very much enjoy what you have provided over the years at Lake Johanna Beach, all the trails, connection to Perry Park Trail, and a half a block away behind our house, a half a block away from the beach, behind our house is the Elmer L. Anderson Trail that was put in with the help of Ramsey County and maintained by Arden Hills. So parks and trails are particularly important to me. That is why I have become a member of the Arden Hills Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee. I do want to speak to the fact that I agree that the parks be opened for a wider period of time, but certainly not 24 hours. I am not interested in any encampments of any kind, and I'm not interested in people who would be there till like 3 in the morning. However, I know that there are people, particularly in the winter, who enjoy being out on the ice. And I do wish that Ramsey County would take time to plow the beaches, parking lots, so people who use the ice during the winter can park there and not get stuck in the snow. But I do take concern about the fact that we need to keep the parks, yes, open for all. I would appreciate more grills, more opportunity for people to enjoy groups there without having to rent a facility to do that at Tony Schmidt Park or other regional parks. I do also bike the trails, and I must commend the Ramsey County Parks for doing very good maintenance with Tony Schmidt Park. And for that, I appreciate attending today, and I look forward to what your end result is. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Christine. Is there anyone else here to speak on the proposed park ordinance?
Yes, there's Madam Chair, there is a resident named Lisa on the line, and I will promote Lisa to a panelist.
Hello, Lisa. Feel free to turn on your camera if you have it and unmute yourself. State your name and where you live, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, my name is Lisa, and I live about a block away from Battle Creek Regional Park. I did not prepare to speak, so I'm sorry if this is not very articulate. Just regarding the parks closing, I guess I feel, so God made the earth and he didn't impose any opening and closing time on any place in the earth. So I don't feel like parks should be closed at any point in time. And then regarding the illegal activity or homelessness or whatever people perceive as undesirable, no matter if there's patrols and 5 patrols in every park, there's still a really low probability that they would even catch somebody that's doing something illegal or something. It's just, so I feel like it's not even worth it. Or at the very minimum, just instead of having the patrol 12 noon to 10 p.m., maybe just 5 to 10 p.m. in the dark. But I really honestly think that it's just would save money and just to not even patrol at all. And then the other thing is about the cross-country people walking and snowshoeing on the cross-country ski trails. I feel that that's slightly unfair to prohibit people from walking or snowshoeing on the cross-country ski trails because we also pay our taxes and live in that area. So I feel like we should also have the right to walk on them, even if even if you want to designate like only the right-hand side of the trails or the left-hand side. Because I live there and I go there like very often, and when I walk, and I actually don't even see many cross-country skiers there at all. So I don't feel it's fair to prohibit people from let people have special privileges of only the trails when they don't even really use them that much. So that's yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But sorry, I have one other question about the deer. Should I wait till ask that, or but it's because it's not really. Should I wait to ask that or ask it now?
Yes, thank you for your testimony.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else here to speak on the park ordinance? I want to also acknowledge that the commissioner's offices and the clerk's office have received public comment that is part of the public record in writing that will be included as well. Is there anyone here to speak on the parks ordinance? Is there anyone here to speak on the parks ordinance? I will declare the public hearing is now closed. We can move to a vote on the parks ordinance.
Madam
Well,
Chair, Madam Chair, we are now holding a vote for the public hearing component here today.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, and we will move on to our COVID update.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Before I turn over to Public Health to provide the bulk of the update, just a reminder of existing policy as we're now, as you'll see and hear more about today, we've peaked with the Omicron variant and are coming down a precipitous downhill backside of what that looks like. And while you can't predict everything in the weeks ahead, that's generally good news. I'm gonna open with that and remind everybody that we are currently in our phase 1 return to office approach. We've just been remote first since it started. But now is the time we start watching over the next couple of weeks to see when we continue to see those rates of transmission come down. We are not by any means close at this point to being at a moderate level or at low, but it is a quick drop off that we're seeing. And so we are preparing for that future state, at which time we can send out a message to our phase 1 entities around a 14-day window around beginning to move back into spaces. And we'll change mask requirements at that time back in consistency with those CDC risk levels. I'm saying this all as just a heads up so that we can we've been in the same spot for a long time. And so our heads have been in the same spot for a long time. And I plan to just continue to bring that forward as we watch this as we go. And now I will allow the professionals to take the rest of this update away. I'll turn it over to Director Sarah Holly. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor, Madam Chair, Commissioners, community. It's great to be back here this morning. As County Manager O'Connor mentioned, Omicron remains the dominant variant, both across the United States and here in Ramsey County. We are still experiencing high levels of community transmission across the United States and here in Minnesota. But the good news is, we are seeing our cases sharply decline. And so that's really good news. January was a very challenging month. So I want to pivot now to talk about hospitals. Open hospital beds continue to be scarce across the state, as 92.9% of adult non-ICU hospital beds are still in use. 94.3% of adult ICU beds are also occupied. As of February 4th, we have 1,239 people who are still hospitalized with COVID-19 in Minnesota. And this is actually a 24% decrease from January 19th. And we're seeing around 118 new admissions here in Ramsey County. I just want to stress that the risk of severe COVID-19 outcomes still remains higher in unvaccinated people who make up less than 30% of the state's population, but the majority of hospitalizations and deaths here in the state. The number of patients waiting for 4 more hours in emergency departments for inpatient beds has also declined from more than 200 per day in early January to 93 by the end of last month. However, we are still urging people, right, to get vaccinated, as we stress each and every week, and to get a booster if you are eligible. A reminder that both Moderna and Pfizer are both fully approved by the FDA for certain age groups. Public Health is currently still offering Pfizer and Moderna booster shots for anyone 12 plus and who have received their second dose of either Pfizer or Moderna at least 5 months ago, or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine at least 2 months ago. You can get your second dose or booster shot at a Ramsey County site, even if you got your first or second dose somewhere else. So that's a really important point to stress, that you can visit any vaccine site to get that first or second dose or even your booster. For testing, at-home tests are not accounted for. I just want to remind us in the state's case numbers. MDH reported 5,829 new positive cases on Monday. We urge people to continue to get tested on a regular basis, as there are many COVID testing sites available, not only here in Ramsey County, but across Minnesota. A reminder that we do have a Ramsey County testing site at Frogtown Community Center, so sign up for an appointment or walk in if needed. Lastly, we are leveraging a large delivery of state N95s this month to our community members, primarily through our existing county departments, social services, parks and rec, and libraries, as well as our trusted messenger program. I want to urge that residents, businesses, and community agencies can access these masks also via our Mask for Everyone website. So you can certainly go on that website as a resident of Ramsey County and request an N95 mask. We also have pediatric masks available, and we're also urging our community businesses and community agencies to do the same. Now I'd like to turn it over to Incident Commander Anderson.
Thank you, Director Holly. Good morning, Chair Matas Castillo, Board. It's good to be here with some better news than we've had for a while. I'm going to go ahead and ask our colleague Mike Lindsay to go ahead and show the case dashboard. Mike, if you could go ahead and scroll down a little bit, let's take a look at positivity and cases per 100,000. You can see that nice sharp decline as we move away from the holidays. And I think really what this points to, and we saw this weeks ago with the wastewater results, is we've reached a saturation point with Omicron, and we're starting to see our rates go way down. So as of yesterday, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention were reporting us at about 784 cases per 100,000. That's a good, strong decline, nowhere near where we would like to see, but good to see the numbers going down. Our weekly positivity among those using a laboratory confirmed test is about 14%. Our colleagues in communications and epidemiology have gone a little bit further and added a new map to this case dashboard. So if you're curious about test positivity among those using that laboratory confirmed test, and you want to take a look at zip code breakdowns over the past 7 days, we have added a new map that shows basically, among those testing, where we're seeing more positivity within Ramsey County. This map correlates somewhat with vaccine uptake, but not exactly. So just an FYI on that. It does certainly help guide our planning efforts around where to position more vaccine, potentially more testing access in the future. Mike, could you go ahead and move us over to the vaccine dashboard, and I'll spend a little bit of time taking a look at the summary of numbers. Just a reminder, vaccine really is our priority here for any resident ages 5+. Mike, if you could just scroll down to that summary piece. Just like last week, we anticipate offering about 600 or administering about 600 doses of vaccine this week. That seems pretty consistent right now. We continue, as Director Holly mentioned, we are offering those booster shots as well as pediatric doses. Since November, we've given a little bit more than 3,600 booster doses at our clinics, as well as more than 5,600 pediatric doses, so to populations ages 5 plus or 5 to 12. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Dr. Ogawa. Thank you, guys.
Little trouble coming off mute today. That's unusual for me. Madam Chair, County Board members, also nice to be here today. I get to speak to vaccination under the age of 5. I'm certain that lots of you are watching and wondering. Pfizer has turned over initial data to the FDA and has requested that they begin the process of possibly approving emergency use authorization. They did this on or around February 1st. The FDA's added or has announced that they will be looking at the data on February 15th to discuss authorization. Now, just reminding individuals, once the FDA meets and potentially approves and likely will approve authorization, the CDC and the ACIP also need to meet to approve and get plans for use of that. The difference with the pediatric under 5 dose is that it will likely be a 3-dose series. The dose is 3 micrograms instead of the 10 and the 30. And so it will likely be the first 2 doses separated by 3 weeks, and then a 3rd dose separated by 8 weeks. There's lots of discussion, and we are planning within Ramsey County to be prepared to support vaccination of those under the age of 5. However, I will share with you that we are really going to be leaning on our regular healthcare partners. We know during the pandemic, a number of children under the age of 5 and those and others also fell behind in their other vaccinations. And so we will be strongly encouraging individuals under the age of 5 to get into their primary care providers to get all of the vaccinations that they are likely needing. We know also that the COVID vaccine can be combined with other vaccinations, and we definitely don't want to see resurgence of other infections as COVID recedes. So we will be looking, though, to continue to be offering those vaccinations likely in our WIC clinics because that's a population that we see regularly who would be under the age of 5. We'll also be offering it within our regular immunization program, where we do offer all vaccines at the same time. We'll also be supporting many of our community partners who are set up to be providing vaccination under 5 previously. The population under 5 is a little bit difficult because they tend to be a little more squirmy and also require a little bit more support. And so mass vaccination of children under 5 is unusual. And so but we will be looking as to how to deliver those vaccines. We also need to recognize that we continue to encourage, just as Director Holly mentioned, first doses in those who have not received any doses, especially boosters in those who also have received that first series, because now we recognize for the additional coverage for Omicron, that booster is exceptionally important. So I will turn it back to County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you all for the presentation. Madam Chair, we stand for any questions or comments.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ogawa and Incident Commander Anderson, Director Holly, for your work and for your whole team that is behind you, making sure our community is safe. It has been a long road, so it's nice to have a little bit of good news today. And so I'm going to go to Commissioner Ortega with a question.
Just a quick question. Thank you, Madam Chair. We keep saying under 5, but what is the exact age limit? Because it's a little confusing to the public.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Chairman Escasio, Commissioner Ortega, it's 6 months to 4, essentially. So yes, yeah, it's not anyone under the age of 6 months at this point.
Okay, so that has changed just in the last couple of weeks, as I was hearing 2 to 4, 2 years to 4, just a couple of weeks ago.
The Madam Chair, Commissioner Ortega, the data presented by Pfizer goes down to the age of 2 months or 6 months. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a good question, Commissioner Ortega. Are there any other questions? Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you again for a good update, and I believe we continue on this path. So thank you very much. We'll now turn to Commissioner Fretham for the movement of our administrative items.
All right. I will start by moving item 6, memorandum of agreement for insurance premium contributions for insurance year 2022. Item 7, joint powers agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for hazardous waste inspections. Item 8, revised financial commitment for Metro Gold Line Bus Rapid Transit Project. Item 9, appointment to the Corrections Advisory Board. Item 10, appointment to the Extension Committee. Item 11, appointments to the Personnel Review Board. Item 12, annual status report on projects and closure of select projects.
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull that one.
Sounds good. Item 13, November 2021 report of contracts, grant and revenue agreements, emergency purchases, sole source, single source purchases, and final payments.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We have pulled item number 12. Any discussion? We'll take a roll call on the items that have been moved.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. Return to item number 12, the annual status report on projects and closures of selected projects. Commissioner McDonough.
I'd move it to put it on the table, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. And discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. To be fair, I did not give Ryan a heads up on this one, so we might not get the answers I'm looking for. But first off, some comments here. I think this is really good, long overdue, bring some transparency and accountability to a lot of projects that get approved with specific dollar amounts that tend to languish, and we're not quite sure whatever happens to them. So I appreciate finance's efforts, all our department heads in both reports, the one that actually is recommending closure and then the one that's an ongoing report of what's out there. First question, and I read this in there, that part of the resolution is giving the county manager the authority to close out counts during the year. I just want to get some clarification. Is that when the project is completed and all funds are exhausted, we're closing that out? Because I do feel strongly that if we're going to close the accounts out with dollars still available, that should be a part of the August report we receive. I see him shaking his head, but.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, thanks for the questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. The CFO is here and she can join if she can help bail me out on any questions. But the intent would be the way you see it today, which in the attachment document here shows the actual amounts included in the amount. So the board gets a chance to see them. I think and this is, we want to codify this both behaviorally and in policy as we go forward, acknowledging that if we don't get it right, I would ask that we continue to talk about it. I don't want the county manager to simply assume a project should be closed, close it unilaterally, only to have issues later. And in the run up to this, we've talked about that with a number of you. So the goal will be to bring it here, seek final agreement on this is the plan, and then they will close after the board sees the report.
Perfect. And then a couple of quick comments on the requested closure piece. You know, most of these are really small. The assumption could be that, you know, the project's been completed and these are unexpended funds and they're going to be closed out, but I don't want to make those assumptions. You know, the status update project should be closed, project should be, I wonder if we could just get a little bit more detail. Like if the project's been completed, and I look at the Judge Cohen recognition, 840, you know, I was really closely. I know that's been completed, right? But I don't want to have assumptions here about, are there other reasons why these might be closing? And then that gets me to my next one. So I would suggest just a little bit more detail in the status update about why we're recommending it should be closed. And then I've got a couple questions on a couple specific ones. I'll start with maybe the easy one, the veterans homeless. They're, again, small dollar amount, 32,000, but I mean, all of us on this, you know how much effort we put into every single day. I know between Tristan and I, there isn't a time between us we're not managing 5-6 calls a day on homelessness. And to see, you know, even 32,000 going back into the general fund when we've got, you know, huge issues ahead of us, it just maybe a little bit further explanation, and certainly don't need that now. But again, I don't want to be piddly here, but you know, sometimes perception is a big deal too, and people see us, you know, having this opportunity to still invest 32,000 specifically on veterans homelessness, and we're basically saying, no, we're done with that. We're going to send that back to the general fund. So just a point there. The one I really need to just talk through a little bit, and that's why I think it's important for these to come back, and might be surprising, is the 1,000 bench project, 362,000, going back to 08 maybe, or yep, 08. And I remember when we did this was a big deal. It was the lead up to Central Corridor. It was really our early efforts to really, you know, we started connecting our trails. We had all these fragmented pieces, you know, a lot of work going on, and recognizing we want to make sure anybody and everybody could have access to trails and hiking and even a walk to the library, right? But recognizing part of our population needed a spot to rest, you know, be included, right? We couldn't maybe do the whole mile or 2 miles, but a bench along the way was perfect. Great concept. I've worked with a number of nonprofits in the city to get some bench locations. I always felt our cost participation was way too high and kept us from utilizing this fund to the maximum that we could have. Now, I don't recall the exact numbers. It's been a while since I've worked with some groups, but our cost participation just always seemed to be the barrier. Now we're at a point where we're saying we're going to close this one out with 362,000. You know, I would suggest we should just reconsider and invest this 362,000 with no cost participation. Get these benches out in the community. You know, we're working on the Rice and Larpenter redevelopment area, a great opportunity. Gold Line's coming online shortly, Metro State and those connections. You know, even, you know, the earlier folks, you know, we're still making those connections on our trails, our dog parks. It just seems to me, you know, even if this could buy 40 more benches or 80 more benches or 30 more benches, if we did the full cost participation and got those out into the community, that would still add value and honor what we did back in 08 and complete this out in a way that doesn't say we're giving up and that we don't think this is still important, but recognizing that, you know, it's come to a standstill. It's probably been years since these folks have worked with somebody to get a bench out in the community. And I get why they put it on the list, but I would suggest we should reconsider, you know, work with active living and target those, or those, you know, communities, community center to a library. They're, you know, how we put this in place really identified some really common sense spots about where benches might be needed. And I'd love to see this one taken off the list and give it direction to parks, you know, figure out a way to get 40 more benches out in the community, spread out between the suburban community and our parks, spread out between the urban community and some of the corridors that we're working on to just drive a little bit more connection and availability for folks.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager O'Connor.
Whatever works, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, couple of maybe responses. I think it is important from a transparency perspective to acknowledge that since we have not done housekeeping in this space for a while, you see varied years of many years, and this first time will clearly be the most challenging as we're doing a multi-year cleanup. In future years, this becomes a far more focused and simple conversation to be having. So I just want to start there, and I appreciate all the comments. It also has led to some, like, I could not have described the project you just did to me in any sort of way. I had not joined the county for 5 more years until after that moment. And I imagine others will find some similar spots. So thank you for that. If it's, I'll go to the CFO to see if she wants to add anything. I would ask that we close the projects, but do the follow-up as suggested today on an additional piece about each project, about how it ended or where it ended as a follow-up. It is not administratively difficult to come back to the board and ask for additional projects to be opened. We have not benchmarked this money to go anywhere. So it's not like the money is the issue. It's more of a cleanup. And what we could do is, I pledge to come back here then to the board, and maybe it'll be a workshop. It might not be just a simple, quick thing that we set up, and we can go through the list of these are how the projects ended with the narratives. And if there's anything here that we want to recommend at that time, we either establish a new go forward project or say we have a couple of things on this list that we really value. We could bring that into you here in the coming months and reestablish it in a shared understanding of a go forward. I would propose that as a potential way to do that based on this report and what we're learning here today.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Brian, I appreciate that. I think that's a strategy that I could support. I just want to, there's always this balance, right? There's a reason why this comes back to us, and making sure that we at least have that final look, right? And some of that is that history you point out. This goes back to 08. And, but I actually do like the suggestion here and have confidence that you'll work with Mark in maybe even a workshop of what does, 1,000 benches look like in 2022? And how can we take what we started with there with a good base, identify why we ended up with, 362,000 still sitting in the pot, and what is, a program that might meet those original goals, but maybe even be expanded to help community be connected within our community look like. I like that, and I have some confidence that you'll follow through on that, because I'll bring it up every 2 weeks to you when you call me and say what's on your list. So I'm fine closing it, but I also want to make sure that, especially like you point out, this one is to clean up, so it's got some unusual ones in here, or not unusual, but some that everybody might not understand the history, or we might need some explanation, a little deeper explanation. So I'm supportive of that. If maybe we could just make sure that maybe amend the resolution a little bit, that recognizing that the conversation around the 1,000 bench program will come back at a future day and time for us to discuss further what that program might look like going forward.
All right, so that's a motion to amend the RBA. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
And Madam Chair, just for the clerk's sake, I think the amendment will be to return to the county board with additional detail about the closing out projects for further discussion. I don't know, we'll figure out the rest of the words, but returning to the board with additional information about the closing out of these projects, or where the final status of these projects. And then from there, what we can anticipate is we'll have a discussion with potentially bringing even in some recommendations about thoughts of how to be thoughtful with the resources that have been saved here over time.
We have a few other hands. I want to go to the CFO quickly, and then I'll turn to commissioners for more questions. Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner McDonough, just 2 quick comments. I appreciate the plan and the go forward. I appreciate your attention to detail on this one. As you know, we've worked hard on this, and my team has been working on it. We'll need a little time to come back to you so that we get all the information, working with every service team and the controllers so that we can document that. And then the second thing on kind of recreating some projects, we want to make sure that the intended use by the county board is reflected in how the project. So if we go back to 2008, I haven't read the resolution for the bench project, but it might look different than we want it to look today. So that gives us an opportunity to come back and make sure it reflects what this board wants moving forward. So I will work with my team on that and appreciate the comments.
Thank you, CFO Krista. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Thank you, Madam Chair, and I really appreciate CFO Kutza and her team, the transparency that we're providing in this. And I really appreciate Commissioner McDonough bringing it up because I think it's true, perception is reality. And when we say we're closing these programs, he mentioned a couple of them, and I'll just bring up a couple more that it looks like we're no longer doing that kind of work. Like I'm guessing we're still working on juvenile prostitution. And I know that active living is still going on. And so it looks like we're closing out those programs with this closure. And I'm a little nervous that active living is going back into the general fund and not going into active living work. So I am curious about that. I know we're continuing, I think we're still doing green containers, but I guess, and leadership environment students. I mean, there's so many things on here that I think we're still doing. I mean, when I heard that we were going to close out programs, I thought, great, we should do that. But it surprised me when I saw so many issues on here that we're still working on. So it's I think a function of the funding streams, but I'm really glad that we're going to look at that because I don't want to give the impression that we're no longer working on these issues. And I would like to see active living actually not go to the general fund, but go to active living. So that's my concerns, and I'm glad you amended the resolution, Commissioner McDonough, because I would really like to see some greater explanation of these, and I absolutely agree that we can revisit them to make sure that our values and our intents are continuing to be reflected in these programs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, County Manager O'Connor.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, I think there's an important distinction on language that you raised that's really good for us going forward. There's a differentiator between program and project, which may sound like nothing, but matters greatly in this conversation. So a project has been specifically proposed and then approved by the board for a particular use intended for whatever. And a project allows us to span multiple years without the money closing out on our normal budget cycle. A program, right, could be active living or many other things that exist within parts of our organization. They receive annual appropriations of funding. They get braided in different ways. And so the programs here are continuing. Specific projects in which we are seeing that money is not being expended, this money is just sitting there, is what we're proposing. And so to reframe today, it's not taking money away from areas. That is not our intent. I mean, at some level, that's exactly what it is, but it's taking money from areas where no one even, in many cases, knows it even sits anymore. And we're trying to bring a level of recognition of that with the board so we can have a thoughtful go forward on what that $2 million best looks like. I hope that helps clarify a little, and we'll do that going forward.
Madam Chair, if I could just ask, yes, thank you, County Manager. That does clarify a bit. I just want to further clarify that. So like active living, there's a project within active living that we need to close because that funding stream no longer is effective there. And then I would just re-ask, why can't that go back into active living? Why does that go back into the general fund? But those are the things I'm hoping the workshop will provide. So.
And Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, on that last part, I mean, I'm not going to advocate that it should or should not go into active living today. I will actually claim that I will benefit from more information with all of you going forward. However, we start from the premise of just because money was once allocated to an area isn't necessarily, and I would use even the reallocations during COVID as the highest profile $20 million example that this board went through, to say we have to reevaluate as we go. That's hard, but important. And so I pledge that we will do that thoughtfully with you in this upcoming workshop.
Thank you so much.
And Commissioner Reinhardt, thank you for being patient.
Thank you. Well, I can tell you as budget chair, this is something that we've been neglecting in many ways for a lot of years. And that's how come I think it is as confusing as it is, because you're talking about money that was allocated, that was acted upon in 2008. And so I think it's important to note that this is something that will not go that long in the future. We'll have the opportunity to say, what do we want to do here? But ultimately, the active living as the example, comes from the general fund in our normal budget process, and it goes into a project. So it's not as if rolling it back into that is just what we would do as part of our normal budget process. And so I think, and we would just have it as a different project potentially, but it's not going back someplace and disappearing forever. I mean, we are allocating in all of these programs and project areas the funds that we need for specific items. And again, most of that is going to come from the general fund. So it is right now not being used. And so we needed to make sure that that transparency was there, that we listed out. And I know that it can be confusing. And I think part of it is because it was just so long in coming. And I think our staff did an incredible job of going through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I appreciate the fact that we want to have more discussion on these. But you do need to understand that virtually everything we do could come under this same microscope, because everything that we are doing and the way we have even shifted in our budgeting process since 2008 to be outcome-based, to make sure that we have milestones and what is happening with these things. That's how come I think the CFO is absolutely correct. What we set up as parameters in 2008 wouldn't look the same today because we have higher standards of what we expect from these funds. And maybe, you know, it is as simple as going back and saying, okay, let's do a refresh on the benches. What does it look like today? It's not just continuing that, it's what does it look like today? And maybe that means no match. So I appreciate, first of all, the motion or the amendment was very specific to the benches. And when county manager rephrased it, it was more general in that there are other things in this list that we may want to look at again. And so right now, as the amendment reads, I won't support it because I think that this is a bigger issue than just benches. And so I appreciate, I will support something that does come back with a workshop, more information on these items, the projects. What do we want to maybe reconsider or reconfigure as far as a new project within that area? And looking at it as a larger review. And I understand that makes more work for the CFO and her staff, but it's been a long time since we've reviewed these, and so I think it is something that we need to do. It's not going to be going through again with a fine-tooth comb, but looking at some of the major areas. And I would suggest that as commissioners, if there are certain areas where we have questions, that we highlight that so that they can go deeper into those instead of going deeper into every single line in this report. So I guess I need a clarification on what the motion is. If it is, as the county manager described, that it is really taking a broad look at the items on this list, getting information back to us, clarifications, we can provide input on that, and then coming back with a workshop, I think that will serve us very, very well. But I don't want to limit it to just the benches.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. I'm going to go back to Commissioner McDonough, who made the first motion. I understood, as county manager phrased it, that it was a broader on all categories. Was that your understanding, Commissioner McDonough, on the motion?
Your interpretation is correct, Madam Chair.
All right. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. So we have, I don't have any more hands up. We have an amended motion to the RBA that says to come back as we have described. I see Carter nodding that is her understanding as the seconder. And so on Robert's rules, I'll ask for your help. Can we do one vote as amended at this time? Okay, so let's take one vote on this item as amended. Thank you, me.
Fretham.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. Right now, I'm going to turn to Commissioner McGuire for a legislative update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that, as I've said every week, our team continues to meet of yourself, Madam Chair, myself, and then our amazing government relations staff of Jennifer O'Rourke and Melissa Finnegan. So as we all know, we're having our Ramsey County delegation meeting with our legislators this Wednesday, which will include all of us, our county manager, and our government relations staff. Just thanks to everyone who's helping put that together. And we've met with our chairs of our delegation, who are Representative Jamie Becker-Finn from Roseville and Senator Mary Kunesh from New Brighton. They are in their second year of their 2-year service as chairs of our delegation. We went over the agenda for tomorrow, and we're all very excited about the conversation that we're going to have. The meeting will be an hour long, and we thank our county manager for being the featured presenter on our priorities. And also Commissioner McDonough will be talking about our continuum of care major request at the legislature this year. We'll also be covering our bonding priorities like the park at River's Edge, and we'll have time, hopefully, we will make time for some good conversation and discussion with our legislators and ourselves. So that's tomorrow at noon, between noon and 1. The next issue is that the hearing schedules are already filling up at the Capitol. Last Thursday, our county engineer, Ted Cheneker, testified in the House Transportation Committee on what the federal infrastructure and jobs bill means to local projects and the importance of state participation in these projects so that they are affordable to all of us. And we want to thank our county engineer and public works director, Cheneker, for that. A number of us have been in one-on-one meetings with legislators. Thank you, all of you who are able to be doing that. We're talking about our priorities for this year, so thanks to all of you. And if any of you are meeting with any legislators, please let our government relations staff know, because then they can help with follow-up and other issues. So that would be great. And then finally, some of us are going to go to the NACO, our National Association of Counties legislative conference that's coming up at the end of this week and next week. And we'll have briefings with federal agency heads and federal legislative staff. I'm understanding that AMC, our Association of Minnesota Counties, is arranging a meeting with Senator Klobuchar out there, and hopefully with our Senator Smith. Also, I think the congressional delegation is not going to be there, but we'll meet with whoever is able to meet with us when we're out there. But it'll be a great conference with a lot of issues about our federal issues. So thank you for that, Madam Chair. And with that, if anyone wants to add anything about what they're working on with the legislature, this would be the time to do that. But just thanks to everyone for all your work.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. We're going to go to County Connections, County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. In some ways, I feel like the project attachment was my connection today to, you can see what's active and across the org. I'll only add one other. On Friday, I had an opportunity with the chair to spend some time over at Metro Square looking at our new downtown service center, or our temporary downtown service center that's been established here on pretty short notice during the ongoing federal trial. And I want to thank all the staff who have been a part of that, from leadership to frontline staff. You can feel the partnership and the togetherness and the approach coming together. And it is a reminder that sometimes you just have to get out of your old space, even when the temporary solution ain't perfect. It's too small for all of our vision of what we want to do in some ways. But in the meantime, it's also allowing leaders and staff from financial assistance and enterprise services, our interpreters, to sit shoulder to shoulder with one another in different ways. And when a resident comes in, they get to experience that. We are also seeing changes in terms of library utilization during this time, which did not happen no matter how many times we've reconfigured the East Building, because that's always been there. And so we've seen an uptick in usage of service centers and libraries in a really positive way. We are also seeing an uptick in usage happening through new and emerging digital points of access into the county's system of service delivery. And some of that deals with things like min benefits from the state and their new system, but it all ties into the idea that we are just rapidly changing. And there's a lot of opportunity that we've seen through this recent change, and we're continuing to learn from it. But thanks to all the staff who took some time out of their day to talk about their perspectives and what they're seeing in the process. I left Friday feeling uplifted and getting to think about what can be going forward. I look forward to more conversation with all of you about that in the weeks and months ahead. I will note that while a federal trial is what was our front end precipitating event that became our determination of needing to move, thinking about what our moves going forward look like and how to be thoughtful in learning in the process does not need to be some external event telling us that. We need to look inside and think about our own plans and where we're at and really talk about like how we move in smart ways going forward. And that'll be a conversation over the months ahead. Thank you. That's all I have for today, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll go to our outside board and committee reports with a gentle reminder that we have a workshop at 10:30 and we want to stay on schedule because we have a full day. So with that, Commissioner McDonough.
A gentle no report.
Commissioner McGuire.
Oh, sorry, I can't do the same. I know I know we have a workshop coming up because I'm leading it, so I'll just talk about a couple of things. One is that I was able to participate in a tribal and county relations training that was coordinated with our Association of Minnesota Counties and our tribes in Minnesota. It was a phenomenal workshop. I want to give a shout out to our own Bobby Jo Porter, who is our she is our Indian Child Welfare Manager in Ramsey County, who was on one of the panels. She did a phenomenal job, and there was a few of the Ramsey County staff from our human services that were there, and I was just grateful that we were all there to have this training, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue that in the future. But it was a great event. Also give a shout out to our Parks and Rec because I was able to do, I went to our winter sampler event at Keller Park where we're partnering with the YMCA in an Unlock It program, and our great park staff that go there and had skis and snowshoes and things available for people to use our great parks. So just a shout out to the park staff on that. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll end my report.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Commissioner Ortega.
No report, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
I have only one item that I'd like to share, and that is that I had a meeting with Dr. Matt Bostrom, and it was on increasing police trust through shared values. And I believe that Commissioner McGuire has also heard this presentation and maybe others as well. Matt, of course, was our sheriff, and the work that he has done in this dissertation, the second dissertation, doctoral, is just pretty amazing. And so I would encourage others to reach out and get this information. It is truly transformational, and that's what we are looking for, I think, especially when it comes to policing. The key to it all is listening to the community. What a surprise, huh? But really listening to the community and then implementation, because we do have the shared values of wanting to have a safe community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Quick, Carter.
Thank you. I just mentioned a couple of things. Thank you, first of all, to Parks and Rec for the work that they are doing to get all of us outside and enjoying winter. And thank you to Commissioner McGuire for going to the lockout event. I do want also to mention that I was able to represent Ramsey County's work in fines and fees reduction, together with a number of people from across the county in the Fines and Fees Justice Center webinar that was held just this past week. Very proud of the work that we're doing. Also anxious to learn more about work being done in state legislatures across the country, particularly California and New York, where states are stepping up to the plate, or I should say legislators are stepping up to the plate to say we need to backfill counties in these areas where fines and fees have have been collected to backfill budgets and ensure that the work that we need to do is being done. So I appreciate our staff's assistance to develop the presentation and share the information that we shared this past week. Also was a part of the Public Safety and Justice Policy Committee with the National Association of Counties just this past week, and thankful to our representative from Emergency Management, Judd Freed, and his assistants to be fresh in those meetings and able to speak to issues such as conflicting resolution that would send funds for emergency management, particularly to human services and health areas where absolutely that work is needed, but where it is very important also that the coordination from our emergency management departments be front and center in assisting health and human services to do their best work, whether it's in vaccinations or education and information, or if it's in homelessness, backed by and supported by the work of emergency management. So we'll be speaking to that issue, Judd providing great leadership and assistance to do so at NACO this coming week. And thank you. I'll limit it to that. Appreciation.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Fretham.
Thanks. I will be brief. I was able to sub in for Commissioner Reinhardt at the Barely Open on Saturday. It was very cold, but still a lot of people came out. I'm shocked. The tent almost blew away several times, but we all made it and it was lovely and people had fun and they raised a lot of money for the food shelf. I was able to present at the Shoreview City Council last night a proclamation honoring Shoreview City Council member Terry Quigley, who passed away early in January. His family was there and was really appreciative of our efforts to honor his work. And I just wanted to mention that today we approved a joint powers agreement with MPCA for hazardous waste inspections. That is something that our Neighborhood Concerned Citizens group, who organized after the issues with water gremlin, have been following very closely. It was a recommendation to prevent issues such as what occurred there from occurring again in the future. So glad we did that and excited to meet with them again on Friday morning.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Fretham. I'm going to forego any of the report in the interest of time, but we are going to briefly switch over to the regional rail meeting and then followed by a 10:30 time start a workshop so we can have a bathroom break. And then we also have a 1:30 workshop this afternoon led by Commissioner Ortega. So we are hereby adjourned in this meeting. Stay put for the regional rail meeting.
I'm assuming the staff is ready.